I've been around the sun 60 times. My friend Kenji Hakuda is one of our board members, and in his culture that means that I've been reborn. And I love the way that sounds, because it kind of feels like it. It's an exciting time to try to understand your life story and what you can do to help others. So that's where I'm at. But I was fortunate to be born in Redwood City in 1957. Ended up going to school at Carlmont High School in Belmont. Like she was saying, in 1971, because of the adults that had set up a class for us called mountaineering class, that we were gluing on rocks and wood blocks in our multi-purpose room, creating a climbing wall in 1971. That's so interesting to think about. And I'm so fortunate those adults were in that place to help a guy like me that wasn't that interested in school. To sit in a classroom with the desk and all lined up just wasn't working for me. I was staring out the window up at the hills going, man, I wish I was out there. But fortunately, they had that mountaineering class, so we would do these little activities around the school, rappel off the building and all this. They also offered us a 20-day backpacking trip. 1972, I think I was going to be a sophomore that summer. We went up to northern Yosemite for 20 days. And during that 20 days, they gave us 3 days by ourselves. They'd be accused of abuse now, there's no doubt about it. Like, what are you doing to leave those kids out there? So for 3 days, I had my own look. An adult would come over and check on you once in a while. I had my campfire. You know, light flickering off the boulders at night, stars over your head, nobody telling you what to do. How exciting is that for a 14-year-old? Also during that trip, they offered rock climbing. And like I say, this is 1972, so the word extreme was not buzzing in the air. It was conservatively approached, like the art of protecting yourself. Responsible adults setting up ropes for us kids, tying the knots securely, just climbing these little climbs. The funny thing that happened that day was our ex-Marine coach that we all really respected, because he had a handle on all of us, amazingly enough, bet anybody a milkshake if they could make this particular climb. I always tell this story because it's so significant. I won that milkshake off a respected adult after 20 days in the mountains, 3 days by myself, and I always said at that point a way of life was laid out for me. I could see it clearly, which is interesting because the imagination of a 14-year-old is very powerful if the adults point you in a good direction. You know, that's part of it. So then by 17, I was climbing El Capitan. But responsibly, we understood the system of how to protect ourselves. So the lessons that are coming through now are so profound that you need to take everything you need in a haul bag, your food, your water, your shelter, and you're up there for days, and you have to respect that environment of the vertical world. You have to have the skills for survival, basically, and then you recognize how important water and food are. So if you're passing a water bottle to your partner 1,000 feet off the ground, you say, make sure you have a good grip on that. Can you imagine the story of water? That's something we want to work on in the future for our kids, is have a real understanding about water. So these are all the lessons that we're coming through in all those formidable years of teenage, you know, to have these initiations almost. They're like rites of passages, these challenges we need. So much can happen between 14 and 21. So much can happen between those years. This is the environment I'm in right here. I always say if you can see the beauty in nature, you'll see the beauty in yourself. So here's me at 15 years old, completely influenced by guys like Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, and Royal Robbins. And what I have hanging off my shoulder there is called Hex Nuts. Clean climbing. So they were promoting clean climbing at that time as we started, because they were using pitons, banging them back and forth in rock, leaving scars. So Yvon and guys like him that cared enough started this trend towards clean climbing. So I was already getting a hint on respect for nature. So I want you to see this big move I was making here up at Lover's Leap near Tahoe. Did you see that? Let me show you again. I just stood up on that. That's a huge move for 15 years old going up, you know, a 5.9 climb. But again, it was so conservative. We were we had to place our gear, you know, carefully. And this is another exciting thought about how the mind develops, being responsible for yourself and learning the art of protecting yourself. So again, things accelerate pretty quick. At that age, I think there's so much intelligence in our senses to adapt to what's in front of us when we're shown, that it ended up where we did this climb, Midnight Lightning, in 1978. In fact, we showed one of the guys that had been around longer than us where the chalk was going. He thought we were just joking him. He said, "That's funny you guys put chalk up there to make me think you did that." So this climb, the exciting thing about this climb, it's in the center of Camp 4, the National Historic Registered Climbers Campsite. And people come from all over the world to make this connection with that climb. I've met people from Japan, Australia, anywhere, and part of their journey was to do that climb. This is another one called Thriller, and did this in 1984. And this was a climb that everyone was trying to get their hand on that hold I have right there, but no one had ever done it. And I got my hand on that hold. And then I thought, well, that's it. That's the end of the problem. I'll just jump off. But I said, wait a minute, let me check above. And I was searching for any little hold, and there was some moss. And I popped the moss off, and there was the tiniest little edge there. And I jumped back down, and I go, it'll go. This will be another level above midnight lightning. There's something very significant in the symbolic idea of that little edge being hidden under that moss, that it would take you to the next step, to another level up. Yeah, so this was called Thriller. And this environment that you're in is so profound, and that's again why I feel that for human beings we need to be around nature to know who we are, to be inspired about who we are, and to understand our responsibility to natural laws. Because there are natural laws that govern the world that are higher than human laws. We need our human laws to keep ourselves intact, but if we don't follow the natural laws, air gets polluted, water gets polluted, and the future doesn't look good. So this is the environment I've been in. I love that tree right there, trying to imagine how old it is and how it grew from a little seed. This is on El Capitan. You might recognize from the videos that rockfall fell right behind me. This is a route called the Zodiac. So that's the east buttress over there where we just had that big rockfall. So again, we recognize the vulnerability of us. This was on a first ascent on El Capitan called New Jersey Turnpike. It goes up the east coast of what they call the North American Wall. What a place to spend your youth, you know? And that's why I'm so adamant about our kids and youthful enthusiasm, the ones that are walking around down in the streets trying to figure out what to do with themselves. So like Yvon Chouinard had said once, he said, climbing saved my life. That's a profound statement. Climbing has saved our life. And to reflect on these ages, this stage of life in my teens, to think about being able to do this route called Astroman. Maybe some of you have heard of that. It's on the east face of Washington Column. And we were primed exactly perfect for this climb to do the first free ascent, whereas coming in at about 511C, if you know these numbers, and never fell on it. Just, of course, we're climbing with ropes and all that. But to be on this kind of aesthetic granite and feel yourself a part of the flow of that cliff is hard to even put words on, actually. But I think it does lend itself to this intimate relationship with nature that can, again, inspire the humanness in you, the senses in us. This is how we were first doing it. You can see on that picture there's a cot hanging there. This is before they invented the actual porter ledge, if you've heard of that, for sleeping up on El Cap. That was like some Navy bunk that my friend thought was a great idea to bring along to sleep on. And that used to catch the wind. You'd be pulling it up the wall, and the wind would be slapping it all around. It became kind of dangerous. Again, from 14, the 20-day backpack trip, to when I was 21 years old, I headed back into the mountains of Pakistan. After learning all the disciplines of climbing, the bouldering, the one-pitch climbs, the free climbs, the artificial aid climbs on El Capitan, going to the Canadian Rockies, doing ice climbing, all that was put into this expedition to Pakistan in 1979, where we had 29 porters from the local area to walk back for 7 days with us. We walked past villages that were self-sufficient. I was trying to convince the people of the good boulders they had around. So our base camp was at 14,000 feet. We had a 2,000-foot ice gully to get to the base of our 3,000-foot rock climb. I always make a joke right now, if some documentary filmmakers came and asked me, Ron, we'd like to go back and recreate that and go to that climb and make a big documentary. We'll pay you $5 million. I say, no, I'm good. That's why I have so much respect for youthful enthusiasm. There was 4 of us. We had 6 haul bags. We melted snow on ledges for water. We were on the wall for 10 days to get to the summit. Once you got to the summit, you could see it was a pinnacle, and you could stand there and look around. You could see up to K2, the second highest mountain in the world, and the only way down was the way you came up. Big adventure and no rescue possible. You were so on your own. That's the summit up there. Uli Biaho, it was called, in the Trango Valley. It's funny to even see yourself standing there. It's hard to believe that even happened. Which led me back to Yosemite. And like she was saying, I've been so fortunate in the timing to be able to do a lot of first ascents on such aesthetic, beautiful rock. This is in Tuolumne Meadows, a route called Peace. So I share some of the rock climbing because it's been profound as my teacher, as a way to develop myself and understand the experiences, like I was saying, and try to learn something from them. But ultimately what it's gained me is a sense of place. Like I feel 100% connected to Yosemite. In fact, one of my transitions of time was when I hit 40. And there's a few things that were going on, but the one thing that was profound for me is that I was coming into Yosemite on my motorcycle, a little Honda 250, just cruising. And I went past this thing called Fern Spring. And I was coming around the corner. It's kind of a little blind corner, but you could see Bridal Veil Falls with the rainbow. And I was just looking at it, and all of a sudden I looked down, there was a car coming at me the wrong way. And I was just like, whew, my whole body went into slow motion, and I had this thought, get out of the way. I moved to the side, because there was other cars coming along too. In that car, I got past the car, but my leg hit the bumper and broke. And I rolled past it and fell over. And I was laying there in the road with a broken leg after all those years. Even 19, went climb without a rope when you're going to live forever, been through all these risky things, and here that happened. And the crazy thing that happened 2 weeks before that is I played a victim in a first responder course exactly like that. That's just nuts, right? I was laying there and the paramedic said, come up, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, it's just my leg. And I go, man, that's just what I was saying 2 weeks ago in that first responder class. How am I supposed to make sense of that? But anyways, it was such a shock to my system. Like, I don't know if anybody's broke a bone, but it's intense. So then I had an experience after I left for 6 weeks, healing, had a cast all the way up my leg, and then had a walking cast. And I happened to be standing at what they call Valley View, where you can see all the Yosemite perfectly with the river right there. No one was around, full moon night. It was kind of cloudy, so it accentuated the landscape. And I was just looking there, reflecting and thinking about all the years in Yosemite, all the people I've met, climbs I've done, swimming in the river, just the whole thing. I kept looking at that scene and feeling the experience, and I was like, poof. This crazy, profound thought was I had no separation from the place. Like I felt completely connected. My eyes started watering in a sense of like I found my way home. And I think that's the potential we have when we understand how to commune with nature. We feel it at home. And I think we're always looking for that now. And why do 5 million people come to Yosemite? I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that. So that's just a little thing to share there that probably got me on the next phase and not long after we started this nonprofit. And so like I say, at this time, it's really fun to help the kids, because I say to these guys all the time, you guys really make me think. You make me consider what's your future going to be. This is up at Cathedral Lake. So again, the beauty is so profound, and that water is super cold, and he wanted to go out there anyway.
Being in nature makes me feel like a real regular human being. What I mean by that is by helping others out of the kindness of our hearts, not having to go against anyone. It makes me feel like I'm in a different world.
I clear my mind from any personal issues or stress and enjoy the beauty of the earth that has been left in its natural state. I feel free, like there's nothing that can go wrong, and that we belong in environments like that. This last trip we went to, Muir Lake, and on certain parts of the trail we had to take our shoes off and walk barefoot through puddles and gravel patches. It made me think of how people walked around about 1,000 years ago.
It's just great to be in nature like that.
It's a good way to clear your mind and a peaceful place.
Those are some of our youngsters from Juvenile Hall. And we do our little circle talks. And we recorded their voices. Uh-oh, I knew that was going to happen. So we're learning from them. And we want them to be able to express themselves, and that's what, back from my rock climbing, I got to express myself all those years learning to climb a rock. And so now you can see with our youth, we want them to be able to use their voice. And we should all have the right to use our voice, That's back to that communication. So I feel like when we learn to commune with nature, we can learn to communicate. If you're following me. I mean, we are nature. We are water. So when I was talking about watching those sunrises by the water, if I just let the water keep listening to the water and keep listening to the water, and I just use my imagination. I say, I am water. And that should sound crazy to you because we put water in this little bottle right now and sell it. I always joke with the people. I show a movie every Friday and Saturday night up in Yosemite called Return to Balance, A Climber's Journey, and I always bring up the fact that this is one of our high water years. There was so much snow and so much water flowing over the waterfalls. How many gallons per minute could have been flowing over those waterfalls 24 hours a day? And here we go over and buy a bottle of it in a plastic bottle for $4 or $3. And I said, what will that water be worth in 20, 30 years? I like to think like that. I just play around. So, I want to open this up to questions too, at any time, if you guys want to help me along, because it's a lot to cover. It's interesting to try to cover 40 years of rock climbing or 35, 40, and then 10 years of doing this nonprofit, and then trying to grasp the potential that we have to make a difference within the outdoor education realm and in the public school realm, and then for all of us to truly take a deep look at where we are at. So these kids, they know where they're at. Some of the guys that we're with, they're locked up. And so they go into adult prison, and it's just an impressive story to grasp the history. Because I say to these guys, 200 years ago, this prison didn't exist. None of this was even happening. Not here, anyway. So you can probably read that. When I first went to Yosemite, it felt like I was in heaven. So I think there's a lot of potential to help our youth get some time instead of do time. And I think that's what all of us are looking for, is to have more time. Because I heard it said, I don't know who was saying it, Mayan or somebody, they said there was going to be a point in history where we became too busy. We became too busy to realize what was going on. We hear the ice caps are melting. Our Sierras, the trees are all dying along there. Millions of trees have died up in our Sierra. And I don't say this to be like doomsday. I just think it's all interesting. How are we affecting things? Yosemite has affected my life by letting me see new things and realize that nature is a beautiful and sacred place. We gave him an A+ for that. In nature, I feel like the weight of my shoulders is released. It feels like a gift. These are profound statements. I won't read them all, but so this is our classroom, and this is our potential to hopefully have a little story rewrite at this point, to bring some compassion, appreciation, self-respect, equality. Everything that was ever good, I think you can learn from watching a river. This is kind of fun. I look forward to going to Yosemite with you and hiking. I appreciate you giving us a different path and some type of freedom. It's one of our Boys and Girls Club girls. Nature's a great playground. And maybe some of you have come across that book by Richard Louv, Saving Our Children, Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. It's a book about that thick. Good to reference. This is my favorite quote. When I go to Yosemite, I feel like I can honestly be who I am. I can escape my problems in a healthy way. I take that first breath of fresh mountain air and I inhale nothing but good, positive energy. And when I exhale, my problems are released out of my body. I love the beauty of Yosemite. It encourages me and gives me hope that I can make my life beautiful too. That's a heavy-duty statement from this one young woman that was in foster care group homes and in juvenile hall, and she goes, I just love it up here. Pretty awesome. So like we're it's called a small nonprofit, but I think we're doing very big things, and we want our big things to get into the mainstream of helping our kids back to nature, helping us all back to that. So maybe as we're all getting a group mind here, we could think, how could we all do that? How could we all make a commitment right now in some way, shape, or form of our mind to take one of your kids out or other kids out into nature and go for a walk and get to know each other and start circle talks and ask them how they're feeling? That's the experience I've been having in juvenile hall, because when you first meet each other, it's like this. And they would admit it too. Yeah, when you first met us, we were kind of stiff. I go, yeah, maybe a little bit. But through trust and respect, the basic elements of being a healthy human being, we started a good relationship. And that's what I'm saying. Sacred Rok is committed to relationships and building relationships that have to do with, family, community, but nature especially. Because I think our power, I don't know how to use this word power, but I think power, the earth seems powerful, the sun seems powerful, The ocean's powerful. Somebody feels like a whole new world. It clears your mind and gives you a great feeling and joy. This is everything we all want. And you don't really have to buy it. One of the great things we get to do is trail work up in Yosemite. We remove this asphalt. One guy was pointing out that asphalt is 2 words for blame. And it's toxic material. And so I was looking at these trails forever because there's water flowing and they always erode and the little pieces of asphalt go into the river, you know. So us guys, one of the assistant superintendent at the time, we were talking and he said, man, we need to get rid of that. And I go, hey, our guys will do that. So we got doing this community service work for quite a while. I want to continue to do it. So these guys get, you know, they love this kind of work because you can thug around and help the place out. This is Lamar Henderson. He's our voice in Merced.
As someone who's involved in the juvenile justice system here in Merced County, what impact do you think the Sacred Rok program is having on the kids who are incarcerated?
Well, in my position as the chair for the Merced County Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Commission, I see Sacred Rok as being one of the tremendous opportunities and youth enrichment experiences for our most fragile and most valued youth. You know, having an experience, I never get used to seeing children through little windows, you know, and I'm always kind of taken back at what were the life experiences that brought this child here, you know, and I know for some, this is the most stable place in their life, you know, so to have an opportunity to participate in Sacred Rok and experience education nature's way, and to be in Yosemite, this most majestic place that people come to from all around the world, and many of our youth right here in our community rarely ever see it. So to take this experience of being in juvenile hall, being in a situation that seems so pessimistic and hopeless, and take them to Yosemite and see the transformation from the time they come out of the facility to the drive all the way to Yosemite, and everything that comes with that, the aesthetic appeal, the change in climate, the change in air, and see how that has a transformational effect on our youth. I think it plants seeds of hope that, man, I belong here, and this is a place where I can go, you know, and it's accessible to me. And you don't have to be rich, and you don't have to be highly educated, and you don't have to be all these things that we think have to accompany health and wellness that they have access to. So I think introducing new, healthier, and accessible opportunities for our youth is critically important, especially for our youth, you know, in the institution.
Yeah, I love Lamar. He does such amazing work. He's in other things like All Dads Matter, but he said something that stuck in my mind once. He said, Merced needs a divine intervention. I thought that sounded kind of like, whoa, man, that's heavy. But this is where we're at. I mean, really, you know, like say, if you get to drift between these worlds, from Yosemite to coming here, it's interesting to build the bridges between them, and that's what we're trying to do with Merced, is build that bridge between Yosemite and Merced and get a stronger sense of education. They're even building an outdoor campus up in Yosemite. Nature Bridge is another nonprofit up there. They're building a $57 million outdoor campus, and we're hoping to have influence on that somehow, to bring back the intimacy and the respect to connect with nature, you know, not just scientifically, but with the wisdom. Sacred Rok is about facilitating the ceremony of nature. Everything we do together is based on respect. We're totally getting back to the basics, you know, and I think that's what's so profound about being human and about the natural world is if we can simplify, have time to be simple, the simplicity of just being. And that's why we say facilitating the ceremony of nature. We just go for walks and we're in these environments. And like I said, as humans, we have our own eyes to see it. We have our own ears to hear it. Smells, taste, touch, you know, get these senses engaged, you know. And I'm as motivated as Google, personally. I'm as motivated as Google to bring this into the light of the future for education. Because these kids they are our future, you know, and it's all about the kids in my point of view and their education. And when they can have these guys know where they're at. That's why they can say profound things like, no matter how bad the day is, and the struggles you're going through, it's up to you to make it the best day you ever had. That's amazing comment. These are guys that are locked up. I don't even know how they do it. I went in at one of those little cells once, and we were making a little film, and the guy closed the door, and I'm like, dang. The thought of having to wait for someone to open that door for you freaks me out. But then some people might be freaked out to be 1,000 feet up in El Cap, tied with a rope, like, you know, you can. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? But I think it's really exciting, our work and our connection with kids and the beauty of Yosemite, because it's so unlimited in the possibilities. And that's what I mean about Google or any of these big companies now. They've came up with ideas, a group of people, and they went somewhere with it. And to see the intelligence that we have, but how will we use that intelligence in the future to think intelligently, how to bring ourselves back into balance and the world back into balance? And break these barriers down like that wall that there's a guy that wants to build between Mexico and here. These walls, what are these walls? It seems absurd that we have so much intelligence and we use it to sabotage each other and do all these things. This is what you learn about going to juvenile hall. You think, where did this come from? What's the history to this? How well do we know our history? Are we taught their true history? Do we know our ancestral lineage? Do we know that we're all indigenous people from the planet? Do we know that we're made up of the earth? Have we forgotten these things? And if we forget them, then you can see the results, because that's what's happening today. That we're recognized as the lost generation. But I say this with compassion and respect and appreciation for the healing that is going to take place one way or another. This is my campsite. This is in the morning, like I said, the 10 summers. And I, you know, that expression, it dawned on you. It really exists. Like it will dawn on you to see the profound reality of the new day coming, especially when you get up when the stars are still up. And you can watch the track of the moon too. I'll see the moon as a sliver, kind of as with the sunrise, and then it'll be the full moon will be setting as the sun's rising. To watch this process is amazing. And then see the sun starts in the east and it ends up in the west, but they tell me that the sun doesn't move and that the earth turns. That's true, right? That's amazing. We are living in an amazing reality. That's reality, but we've created an illusion that we call reality, so we forget about the reality of the sun not moving and the earth going around the sun. How does the earth know how to go around the sun? How does it know? How does your heart know how to beat? This is the Good News Channel. I'm just trying to share it here. I love being inside this building, sharing these thoughts and feelings, because it brings more power to us as human beings to think clearly and coherently for the future. It's very exciting. I think Sacred Rok is serious fun. I love serious fun. That's what climbing has been to me. You had to take it very serious, the environment you're in. If you didn't pay attention, the gravity is just going to take you. There's a couple of our elders standing there. You can see one of them. I help out in the Native community. That's been a huge opportunity for me to get that extended education as a human being and bring me back into my indigenous reality as a human being from the earth. And I like one of the statements our elders had threw out there the other day. You know, they have their universities, but we have our universe. I was like, whoa, that's a statement. Because when these guys talk, they just say it to the point. Got to appreciate water. Okay, that's it. Got to appreciate water. Got to work together. That's it. We're working together. That's ours. I mean, they call the shots. And in that community, the elders are regarded as the say-so. That's a nice picture. This is our group, juvenile hall, walking along the river. Beauty, beauty, beauty. So beautiful. And I hope that as we're all in this room right now that we can see the beauty in ourselves. You know? The incredible phenomena of a human body. And it's designed after the earth. Don't they say that the world's covered with something like 70% water? However, we're mirroring that, like we have that much water in us. I heard these things. Maybe they're just someone making it up. So this is the environment I'm coming from. This is the environment I know I'm connected to. And we bring our kids up here. This is right outside that camp. This is about 200 feet from that camp that I was saying I stay at. And these boys went around here, I think I counted 65 times. They'd run up and they'd slide down the water, the little rock, and they'd fall, and then they'd go by going. Every time they would smile when they ran around the circle was the greatest thing you could ever see. So, this book, we have some here for you guys. It's called Voices from the Inside Out. When I was being asked a lot, are you seeing results with these guys? And I said, well, yeah, every time we're together, we enjoy each other's company. We're building a friendship based on, again, trust, respect, appreciation. And then Mackenzie came to a class meeting, and we call our lunch meetings Mission I'm Possible, because I doubled for Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2, and I was showing a clip to the kids in class. And as I was looking at this clip, I'm going, man, it's not even real. It's like Hollywood, and it cost $80 million. That's pretty neat and all that. But after the clip, I said, you guys, this is Mission Impossible to get out of this situation. And then the teacher said, let's start a club, and we call it Mission Impossible. But the kids changed around and say, let's call it Mission I'm Possible and Mission Accomplished when you get out. So at these lunch meetings, we have writing prompts. The teacher and I will get together and suggest a question like, what does water mean to you? What does it mean to be human, whatever. And then Kenji joined a class, and I said, Kenji, what did you think about the class? He said, there's a lot of creativity in that room. That's all I needed to hear. So then we thought, what can we do with that creativity? So we put it into this book, because then they can speak for themselves. What's it like to be in a jail cell, go up to Yosemite, and be underneath waterfalls and rainbows, do trail work, go swimming, and then go back? So we collected all their writings and let them speak for themselves. And we'll be able to hand some of those out to you and share them. So it's a great honor to represent these youngsters that are representing all of us, because they're following the lead that we give them. If we put those iPhones in their hands, if we put the computer in their hands, and what are they going to do with it? How do they know how to really use it responsibly? You see that girl carrying those little buckhorns? I don't know if there's another picture. It was so funny, man. There was some tourists that found one, and then they gave it to us. And I said, let's go see if we can find the other one. What are the chances of finding the other one? And we did. We did find the other one. Here's one of the guys was saying that this picture, it's like a choice which way you're going to go in life. And you got those cells, and you got this nature. But it's an honor through our diverse group at Sacred Rok. Kenji's colleague was Brian Cooley, and Nancy also worked in social service, so it opened up doors quite easily, I could say, to get into juvenile hall, to show our film Return to Balance, and start a relationship for the last 8 years. And we want to keep going somewhere with it. We want to take it so when they do get out of juvenile hall, they have a place to go. Because once they have that ankle bracelet on them, it's very difficult as a teenager to not be tempted to go over to your buddy's house that might be a known gang member or whatever it is. And then they're hauled right back. And we all know that it's a business. We all know there's profit being made off these industries. So we're not saying we're for or against it. We're just trying to find the healing the potential of that energy to be used in a positive way to help society and help our kids. So I think the future of Sacred Rok is to mirror these juvenile halls and have other places in safe locations to get the right education, the right skills, and then come back out into society to be what one of our elders said, we need to become helpers, healers, and menders. And they're ready to do it, I'm telling you. They are ready. They don't want into this, like Lamar was saying, they just were born in these circumstances, rough situations. But they're being mined now for their energy to create jobs for other people. That's the hard look at it. I'm just trying to be honest as I can through my experience of what I'm observing. So I think the future is to get those guys out of there, go somewhere else, and have different ways of being educated and to contribute to our communities. Huge potential. And probably a company like this that could eventually wrap their mind around it could just fan off some of that energy that they call money, and we could start to work together on that future for the kids. What a thought, huh? That's how I think. Because when I started climbing, people said, you can't make a way of life through that. Even Kenji said I couldn't have planned my life. But I think I was planning it all the time with my imagination, because the power of imagination can attract things that you would really want if you're sincere. I was very sincere about wanting to climb rocks. But now I'm very sincere about this. There she is with those little horns. And everyone responds to nature so well because it is a healer. These kids will jump in the river if it was snowing. They love to be in the water. That's our Fern Spring we go to all the time. That's the one I drove my motorcycle past and broke my leg. And ever since then, I've stopped at that spring to pause for a minute before I go into Yosemite Valley. And this is the beautiful environment, this waterfall too. And I went up there many times to get some pictures of that last light, and to hear that water hitting the granite slabs below, it just does something to you. There's a song out there, and that song, I think, evokes the memory of our DNA that goes back in time to know how we're connected to all this beautiful world. So again, can you imagine my privilege to be in this environment for the last 45 years? and just to humbly try to make sense of it, to share with the next generation so that they could have the same kind of experience or a better experience. So this is some of the things we're looking at to extend our possibilities. We need to get some transportation to go pick the kids up, because we've said just ride the bus up, we'll pay for it, but it's hard. You got to go pick them up. You know, it's whatever, Saturday at 8 o'clock, meet at this corner, we'll get you. And if you think about it, we kind of do some more of this stuff, the numbers. It costs about $90,000 a year to keep a guy incarcerated. And I don't even know what budget we're working on. Maybe I can get Nancy to speak to this a little bit. So that's some of our story right there. And if there was some questions, that would be nice, or I could ask our chairperson, Nancy, to come up, or Kenji, or, yes, sir.
What are some of the long-term changes you've been able to initiate in those kids?
That I've seen with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an ongoing respect that we have. Like, this is why I'm saying we need to build the bridge to when they're out. Because when they're there, we're together all the time, like once a week. It could be for a year. And then we go to the Facebook and we're chatting back and forth. And the guys will send me these positive notes. And so we still have a dialogue going on. And that shows me that we've made a connection. Because really, I think we're trying to operate like an extended family. We relate to each other like that. So that's what I've seen. Mainly, I've seen the respect that comes from them and the willingness to work together. And that shows me, when people say the word hope or whatever, that it shows me the possibilities of, if we can reach out and give a helping hand, they'll take it. But we have to start thinking bigger, because for the last 8 years I've been going there, they've been coming to Yosemite, it's a great thing. But like we're saying, if you do the recidivism, a lot of them slip right back because the pressure is just too much when they're back in their communities, and they're still young guys. And you got older guys, you know, it's kind of a challenge for them. So I've seen it in a personal relationship, very strong and very positive. And then on the other part of the reality and the environment that they're still staying in, it's very difficult to get out of it. And so I know a lot of our guys have gone on to adult prison too. Not all. I don't even know we haven't necessarily done the numbers on that. But that's why we know we have to make the next step. Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here, by the way.
Thank
It's really
you.
awesome to listen to you. When you get out there with the kids for the first time, what's it like for you? What have you found is most maybe effective to build a bond and a connection in those first few days?
Yeah.
Because I haven't done this. I would think like, well, maybe you have something in your mind, or you have like a program or something that you want to get across, or maybe it's not. I don't know. I'd love to find out.
That's a great question, because we are. When I first went to the juvenile hall, and I was talking to kids, and the one guy goes, "Man, they're not sure if they don't get you. They're not sure what you want." I don't want anything. I didn't want anything from them. I just want to be together. And I think that sets the stage in why we say nature's way, education, nature's way. There's a natural way for us to be. So if I'm meeting you, how are you? How do you do? And then we're kind of checking each other out, like, what's your interest, or what's this? So what I'll do right off the bat is, here's a pack. Here's some water and food. Let's go. We just start walking. But I can usually size them up and think, where's a good place to walk? Because I know the place so well, what kind of day it is, where the people might be. I want to walk in certain places that inspires them. So that you're letting them see it first and feel it, and not have some, like a necessarily adult tell you how to think and how to feel. So that's why we say we facilitate the ceremony of nature. So that's what's so beautiful about being there all these years, is I kind of know where to go and when to go. And then we'll strike up just a little conversation. So if you have some of the other chaperones there, we're all just walking along in a normal set, like normal, and we start to visit on whatever topic is interesting. And then we could stop, and they'll be underneath El Capitan, and they'll say, "Have you climbed that?" And I go, "Yeah." "Really?" And then I might have a story about being up there in a snowstorm and just wanting to get off the face of that rock and saying, "Oh God, just get me off this face of the rock. I'll never do another bad thing in my life again," you know, because there's thunder clouds. And so they're like, wow. So I think the cool thing is I get some respect, which is an honor that I've climbed these rocks. So they're kind of intrigued by the story, but I don't force anything on them. Because there's a certain thing about showing respect, to not force yourself on someone, you know. And they're dealing with that a lot in their lives, because there's, like I said, they're locked up in that room. But this goes for any kids. We were Boys and Girls Club, foster care, all of them. Just respect them for who they are and the intelligence that they have to share, how they feel. So we're basing a lot on just how we feel. You know, it's flipping it around. It's like we want to respond to how we feel and be able to talk about how we feel and feel trusted to do that. So I'm always amazed when we have our writing prompts and everyone will stand up and read it in their own way. This is how I felt up there that day. And you got a rough bunch too, because if they, you know, but we keep the respect. That's what we say we're based on respect, is they want to start teasing a little bit maybe, you know. But we all kind of recognize that we're making this commitment with each other based on respect, and then the opportunity to go to Yosemite and the opportunity to have food together. But it has, I think there's a magic in the healing part of it, is because we're just so respectful and, what would be the word? It's kind of like just, it's a nurturing thing. And the challenge of that is, it's hard to write that down on paper. We had struggles with some work groups because it's like, what are you guys doing? We're going for a walk. At what time? Oh, when everybody's ready. You know? So I think we all like, that's why we all need vacations, right? We're like, man, this clock is going to drive me right off the edge of the world. So we get up there and we get on nature's time. And that's why I'm trying to get all of us back to nature time. You shouldn't have to work more than half a day. How fun is it to be here and say stuff like this? You know, because I know we all feel it, but we all are making sacrifices because we have to survive. We need a job. There's nothing wrong with having a job. But like say, the philosophy of Keto is to take energy and guide it to the future. So how do we want this to play itself out in long-term thinking, like the next 100 years? I mean, this whole Silicon Valley thing's been how long? Not that long. You know, California, we're talking about the history of California is only a few hundred years. That, you know, amazing how fast it's all moving. And it's cool, it's amazing, you know, it is. It's a phenomena we're in. But with that phenomena, where are we gonna end up? And what is our responsibility as humans being created, put here in this earth to experience life? What is our responsibility? Our ability to respond to the story we're in. So Sacred Rok is taking responsibility to respond to the situation that our kids have been put in, just for the sake of saying incarcerated, just that alone. It's such an interesting thing to be involved in, but I can see nothing but potential in the future to get those kids out of there and do something positive with the power that they have, the creativity they have, the heart that they have to actually put themselves in that situation. Man, they're going through some serious rites of passage, so if they can get through that, they'll excel. So it's a lot to, like I said, wrap our minds around, but I try not to overthink if I can help it. My new thing is try to think from here and feel from here. I'm trying to get that language going. Some say the longest journey is between the mind and the heart. I think we used to be in our heart more as indigenous people, that we all have been, and then we got up to here, and now we're so powerful in our intellect that it's causing a little confusion for the heart. So maybe it's the middle. Maybe we got to get back to the middle. But it's like I say, what a place to be saying this. But the matter of the fact is, we're all human beings, and our kids are human beings, and they're being subjected to a lot of challenges.
Could you, thanks again for being here. Could you talk about how you got started in the program and how you started the program in general, just your inspiration and things like that?
Yeah, thank you. One of our other board members is named Steve Shackleton. He's the former chief ranger of Yosemite National Park, former chief ranger of all national parks in America, and we've been good friends forever. And Steve and I will take off on talks kind of like we're having right now, but just between us two. And we come from these different kind of realms, but we have the same connection intimately to Yosemite because he grew up there as a kid, and his dad was head of law enforcement there. So he said to me in one of our walks, you should really meet this guy, Kenji Hakuda, who's sitting in the back of the room that's part of our board now. And I said, that'd be great. And then I finally did meet Kenji briefly, but then actually Kenji was on a solo backpack trip. And he stopped by a place called Tioga Pass Resort at the top of the Sierras, just outside Yosemite. And he left me his number, and he said, I look forward to talking to you. Maybe there's a project of some kind we could work together on. He left that message for me at Tioga Pass Resort. I did not get that message till the next year because the place shut down due to winter. And when I went there for the first time, they said, hey, Ron, there's a message for you. I said, this is whatever year, last year. So I got the first time, when I went to a phone, as soon as I could, I dialed, hey, Kenji, it's Ron. He goes, yeah, I was wondering if you ever call. I go, yeah, sorry, I just got the message. He goes, well, it's funny you're calling now because I'm buying food right now at the store to come up to Yosemite. I go, okay, can we talk? He came to my house. We sat for hours across from each other talking about all the possibilities of what we might do. Then we ended up taking a walk up one of my favorite trails up above the Wawona Tunnel with Nancy, his wife. And we started considering what would it be like just to bring kids out here and let them see it in their own way. We could do this thing about facilitating the ceremony of nature. They said, yeah, we should do something. Nancy worked with foster care and our social service in Merced. So within a few weeks, we had, I don't remember how many kids, at least 12 or 18, a group walking up that trail. And then with Nancy's help, because Kenji said, you haven't met my wife Nancy, she'll get things going for us. We were in nonprofit status within some months, as I recall. So then we established ourselves as a nonprofit, and then we came over to Juvenile Hall. We showed this film, and we even, as we went into that place and came out, I asked Kenji in the parking lot, what did you think about that meeting with the kids? He said, well, I think we're getting warmer to the idea of what we're doing, you know? So it's all, it just kind of came about, but it was in my mind for years to do something that would benefit others, because I think it was in my subconscious mind that the adults helped me at a time, and maybe it was coming up to my conscious saying, well, it's time for me to do that. And that's what getting back to these thoughts over years of how you attract the possibilities and the people to do something. And I think that's why you're all here working with these guys. Thank you, guys.